Boom. All right. Welcome to the first annual Top Prospect Podcast. It's an elite
Mm-hmm.
podcast. I'm your
Mm-hmm.
host, Phil Jones. So with me, I have Jacob Bassett, John
Hello.
Keeler, say hi, John, and Jake Costello.
Hey, what's up?
What's up? So let's just get right into it. Let's start making history. So first things first, boys. Actually, Jake Costello, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
You doing good? Love the flag behind you, Boston sports fan. I see that. I respect
Thank
it.
you.
Nice. That's
Now-
nice.
Yes, sir.
Now, the first topic we're going to discuss is our most achieving team so far for the first half. Who do you have and why?
All right, I'll start off.
That's
I got to go with the Chicago Bulls, man.
Chicago Bulls. Okay.
Beginning of the year, I was expecting them to be like bottom of the half like they were the past few years, and they really needed a big coaching change, honestly. Like, you know that clip of the Jim Boylan trying to bring the team together during a timeout and no one's like paying attention?
It's a
Yeah.
classic.
Like, that was bad. So they got it, Billy Donovan, which I think has worked so far. He kind of reminds me of like Brad Stevens when like they had Isaiah Thomas and like less ego team. People wanted him like fired with the Thunder because he had Westbrook and now Paul George, Carmelo Anthony. But he's doing better with like lesser known guys. And you know, you got Kobe White. He's averaging like 15, 5 and 5 a game. He's doing solid as their starting point guard. Dude, Thaddeus Young, he's been mad nice off the bench. He puts up pretty good numbers. And overall, their bench is pretty solid as well.
Facts.
And bro, no one talks about him, but Lauri Markkanen is having like the best year of his career. Last
He got
year,
hurt.
yeah. But dude, he's averaging like 20 points, 50% from the field, and his 3-point percentage is like 40% right now. You also got Wendell Carter Jr. He's a good center to have on your team. He's young, can give you a double-double any night.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you got Zach Levine. He's putting that team on his back. He is almost averaging 30 points a game. He's an all-star. Honestly, becoming one of the best Bulls players of all time, I must say.
Oh, that's
Hey, you could.
Yeah, Michael Jordan, who I guess.
best shooting guard.
But dude, Patrick Williams, he's doing pretty solid as well, honestly. Everyone thought he was a weird pick, but he's doing pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Chicago Bulls, my most overachieving team in the first half.
Did Bass or Keels, did any of you guys choose the Bulls also or no as your most achieving?
I didn't pick the Bulls, but I agree that that's a really good team, especially with the new All-Star, Zach Levine.
Mm-hmm.
Facts. I think Billy Donovan's such a perfect coach for them because what he did last year with OKC, like he literally brought them, like they were supposed to be like a lottery team, like
I know, right?
one of the worst
2% chance,
and they almost won a first round matchup, which they should have, but obviously didn't. But so Billy Donovan's the perfect coach for them. Levine's obviously hooping his life away, and so I like that pick right there. Any other comments about the Bulls or no? How about you, John? Seem a little quiet over there.
No, I think it's a very respectable pick. I like to pick a lot. Wasn't my pick, and this is going to be one of the few times I do say Koss had a very good point, very valid point. So,
hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I was ready to battle a bad pick with him, but I can't argue that one.
You might be doing that later.
Will be, probably.
So who'd you pick, John, for your most achieving team?
My most achieving team is the New York Knicks. We have a team that has been a historically poverty franchise forever. I mean, they were just absolute meme every year. Couldn't get anything figured out. 21-45 last year. And granted, the East is very weak this year, in my opinion. But they're 500 and a 5 seed in the East. So, I mean, when you take the history that the franchise has in the past decade and you turn it into something positive like that, I mean, Julius Randle's playing out of his mind right now. First-time All-Star. Love what he's doing up there. RJ Barrett's proven to be a pretty good selection that they made. I think he's been playing very well. And just top to bottom, I think they're a team that no one really expected to be even relevant again. And they're proving people wrong. So that's my overachieving team so far this year.
You know what, John? I picked the exact same team, and I agree that Julius Randle has been the obvious leader of that team. But I think a big factor of that has been new coach Tom Thibodeau. He's known for riding his players quite a bit and leaving them out on the floor and letting those guys eat up a ton of minutes. I mean, just look at Randle, who's averaging the most minutes in the NBA per game right now. But they've also gotten some really good contributions from Mitchell Robinson, who's averaging about 1.2 steals a game and a block and a half. And they've gotten some great contributions from Emmanuel Quickley, who floater gang on point right now.
Yes, sir.
And Obi Toppin has been pretty solid off the bench, who's in the dunk contest coming up pretty soon. Ooh. So they should be good for years to come as long as they keep this core intact. They've been surprising so far this season.
I was thinking of either choosing the Knicks or the team that I choose, but like I had a feeling one of you would choose the Knicks, so I'm like, nah. But I agree. Tom Thibodeau is a great coach. Obviously, he coached Derrick Rose and that Bulls team.
Oh yeah,
led them so very far, obviously. And yeah, they have a bunch of young talent. Julius Randle surprised everyone this year, and yeah, so yeah, I like that pick. Any other comments about the New York Knicks? All right, I'll get to mine. So like I said. I was going to choose the Knicks, but I didn't. So I chose the Portland Trailblazers. So,
all right.
Like on paper, obviously they're not surprising. Like they're supposed to be one of the top teams in the West. But when you factor in that they're missing Yusuf Nurkic, who's the third best player, and CJ McCollum, who's the second best player, it's obviously like Damian Lillard carrying like old, like I guess role players, and like they shouldn't be in the playoffs right now. Literally should not be in the playoffs. And right now they're a 6 seed. They were a 4 seed like yesterday, but it's like a really tough race. So obviously, like they moved down, whatever. But the contributions, like obviously Lillard's playing at MVP level, like averaging like 30 points a game. Carmelo Anthony, who obviously like everyone like has their own opinions about, you either love him or hate him. Like he's at the point where it's like he's a really solid starter for an NBA team. Like just everything he does, like his offensive game on the floor is so elite that it's like it's helping this team. Robert Covington, who's like he's more like a defender type, but he's really like holding it down for obviously like Kanter's not a huge defensive guy, so Robert Covington has to like hold it down basically. But yeah, Kanter's on paper he's the best offensive rebounder in the entire league actually. So yeah, Kanter's holding it down in the middle, getting those boards, all that good stuff. And personally, I think Damian Lillard, like the fact that he's not a starter, he's taking it personally. And I think second half, he's just going to explode and carry this team. Yeah, Dame time is going to happen.
It's Dame time.
So, yeah, I think Luka getting named over him is really going to mess him up. But, yeah, besides
that's
that,
a very stereotypical Philip pick, in my opinion. I mean, when I think of a team that's supposed to be overachieving, we're supposed to be looking at a team that's not supposed to be doing really much at all and that's going above expectations. You're going to take a team like the Portland Trailblazers, who were just in the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago, make the playoffs last year.
They were in the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago.
Yeah, they were.
Yes, they were.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
You have an MVP caliber player like Damian Lillard, and you're going to call them the most overachieving team, being two games over 500.
Yep,
it's a fair point.
Yep, they're missing.
It's a stacked Western Conference.
They're in a stacked Western Conference. They don't have two of the three best players, and it's one man carrying a bunch of role players. So, yes, I think the fact that they're high up in the Western
I think they're right where they should be. Damian Lillard's good enough to carry a team. I think he's good enough to carry a team further than they are.
I disagree.
You disagree, but he should be an all-star starter over Luka.
Oh, I agree 100%. He should be an all-star starter. I think everyone in the world agrees.
I agree with that. Right. Yeah, I agree 100% with that. But
damn fans.
I don't know. You can say they're overachieving with what they're doing right now.
I think they're overachieving.
I think Damian Lillard's overachieving as a player individually. I don't know how you can say the team overall is overachieving what they should be doing now.
All the role players are stepping up into actually doing good contributions for the team. Last year, Carmelo Anthony was so inconsistent. Robert Covington couldn't throw a rock in the ocean. It was literally like they couldn't do anything. Enes Kanter couldn't. Was Enes Kanter even there last year?
No. In Boston.
Yeah, he was on Boston. I forgot about that.
Taco's best friend.
They got Derrick Jones Jr., which obviously is a huge help. And like, what's his name? Gary Trent last year was inconsistent. Now he's turning. Yeah. Now he's a sniper. So like, I think all of them overall are helping out Damian Lillard to become a really good team. Yeah.
I like the pick.
John disagrees. I'm not gonna argue with him.
Especially with the injuries, man.
We all have our own opinion. Anyway, so next we're getting to the most disappointing teams of the first half. So, Bass, you want to start?
Well, for my most disappointing team of the first half, I have the Dallas Mavericks. And I just watched them last night absolutely dismantle the Brooklyn Nets, but they had no Kevin Durant and no Kyrie Irving. So it was James Harden versus Luka Doncic, and then Porzingis also stepped up. So despite that really good game, I think they've been pretty disappointing so far in the first half. Luka leads his team in every stat besides blocks, which is, I don't know, it's a little crazy. And he's third in the NBA for total turnovers, which is pretty bad. And he started the season off shooting like crap. He wasn't shooting good at all. Porzingis has been hurt for a lot of the season. And a couple guys have stepped up. Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Richardson, and Jalen Brunson have been okay, but they've really had no other help or contributions from other players. And they're not a good seed currently in a stacked Western Conference. They just came off a really good series versus the Clippers where they almost won in the bubble. And a lot of people expected them to take that next step up with the team that they have, and they just haven't been doing it. And it might not get any better with Porzingis having his name in trade rumors.
Yeah, that defense isn't too well either,
No.
must say. Good offense, but the defense, very suspicious.
Just the inconsistent play, especially of Tim Hardaway Jr., because I've been watching him. I'm a huge Tim Hardaway Jr. fan.
Yeah.
But it's like one game he'll drop like 6 threes, like shooting it almost perfectly, and then another game he'll shoot like 2 for like 13. It's like that inconsistent play just really is,
especially when you're like a third option on your team. You gotta step it up a little more than that.
Really. How's Porzingis been? I haven't really noticed. I
know, right? I haven't been.
He's been decent, but it's been a small sample size for him because he's been injured for so long.
Small sample size. He's been pretty good, but I mean, Luka's got the whole load on his back, and it's just it looks like he just doesn't have anything around him because you don't know what you're going to get every night out of the rest of the team. So, I agree with the pick. I think it's a pretty good pick, Bass.
Yeah, they're definitely expected to be higher up in the Western Conference.
Yeah, definitely.
I think they should have been competing for like one of those top 4 seeds, honestly.
Oh yeah.
That was my expectation.
Battle the Clippers like that well in the bubble. Granted,
when it was just Luka, they didn't even have
the bubble
Porzingis.
was a lot different as we've seen how teams have played now. Maybe bubble hangover. I know that's been tossed around, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you go up there and compete like that and then come in the next season and just almost drop the ball.
But I think they have a chance to turn it completely around with how good Luka is, and if they're able to hold on to Porzingis, they have a good opportunity to turn their season around.
Oh yeah,
make a splash in the playoffs. They just started off really bad so far.
I agree. Yeah. Any other points about Dallas? I like that pick. John, how about you?
My most disappointing team, and this was a tough one because I kept going back between 2 teams I didn't end up picking. I was big on either the Heat or Celtics because, 2 teams in each conference finals don't do anything really good this year. But my most disappointing team, I decided to go with the Washington Wizards. You have a guy like Bradley Beal who is obviously playing lights out. I mean, he's just an outstanding player. He had you got the jersey right there. He had how many games straight of dropping 30, 40 points, and they just couldn't get any wins. And it was the same story as last year. I think they clearly won the John Wall trade as far as you bring in a superstar like Westbrook, MVP caliber player, as we've seen what he can do on the court, and you have them 2 together. And they've started to turn around a little bit. The record's gone a little better, but overall, I think people kind of expected them to be in the playoff picture, maybe compete for maybe around a 5 seed-ish, and they can't get it done. I don't know what else to say. They're just can't do it.
Yeah, I had them as a low playoff seed, honestly. And their defense is worse than the league?
Literally.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah.
I thought Brooklyn was the worst, but no, Washington's the worst.
Yeah. And that's saying something if you're worse than Brooklyn on defense right now.
Yeah.
I know. Literally.
But like they've gone off to a really slow start. It's obviously like their first like time like Westbrook
for
and
sure. And
together.
that's why I think I feel like they have a better chance to flip it than almost what we were talking about with Dallas. I mean, the Wizards, you take two players that kind of are ball hungry and need the ball in their hands to dominate because Bradley Beal's a scorer. I mean, if he doesn't have the ball, he's not going to get his. And Russell Westbrook's kind of a commander. So, I mean, obviously it takes time to adjust. And I think that's kind of why it's flipping. But at the end of the day, if you can't play defense or they keep playing like that, then they're not even going to make the playoffs out of a team that should have been competing.
I think another reason
the East is kind of weak this year. I think they definitely could have gone in and maybe snuck into the second round even. But at the way it's looking, I don't even know if they're going to make the playoffs. Well, finish even close to 500.
So right now they're 13-18. I think they're gonna make the playoffs. Like it's gonna be very hard for them to miss it. But I think another reason for them not being successful is because of their big contracts. Like Davis Bertans is getting paid, I don't know, like almost $20 million, and
he took a step back this year too.
Big step back. Like he was supposed to be like obviously like a third option.
He's supposed to be like their future. They wanted him. They wanted him to step up and be a go-to guy, but
he's not doing like he's like just like same numbers as last year basically. And
how much of an influence does that have on the fact that Beal's obviously getting more touches? You bring in a guy like Russell Westbrook, so it's like how can you expect Bertans to do more when you bring in another superstar and you're asking more out of Beal? So,
and it's hard. Also,
it kind of does go both ways. I agree. For $20 million, you kind of want more out of that, but it's kind of like you got to play with the roster you have around you.
Yeah, it sucks also because Thomas Bryant was having a career year and he tore his ACL. Like he's out for the season, which sucks because he was literally like he was huge for them. And now it's Robin Lopez, who's like he's not terrible, but he's not like that good, I'd say.
Yeah, so, definitely a backup.
Got postered by a rookie the other night.
Anthony really?
Edwards. Anthony Edwards slammed.
Bro, Anthony Edwards is something else.
He's like Ja last year. He's trying to poster everyone.
That man hates basketball. All right, how about you, Jay Koss? What about you for your most disappointing?
Right. My most disappointing team is the Pelicans, man. I thought they would take that next step. I thought there'd be like a low playoff seed. Mm-hmm. They have individual players that are doing really well, like Brandon Ingram. He's not an all-star this year, but he's averaging like similar numbers to last year. He's averaging 24, 5 assists and 5 rebounds. You got Zion. He's an all-star, averaging 25, 7 and 3, and shooting over 60% from the field. That's insane. Then you got Lonzo, who he's having like a better scoring season, but like his assist numbers went down. But he's having a solid year. His defense is pretty good. But really, like, what's the problem here? And I think it's their bench depth. JJ Redick is having his worst year of his career, averaging only 8 points, not even 40% from the field. They have Josh Hart off the bench, but other than that, they really have nothing else. I mean, they got Steven Adams. He's doing pretty good, but again, the bench is really what's killing them, in my opinion. And I wasn't the biggest fan of the Stan Van Gundy trade. Signing as their coach. But yeah, man, the Pelicans most disappointing for me.
Stan Van Gundy, man, ruined my Pistons, bro. But yeah, Pelicans definitely are. They're a team that are supposed to be like really good. Obviously, Zion all-star this year. Congrats to him. Brandon Ingram, obviously the all-star last year, not this year, but yeah,
still good.
And the people like I thought Steven Adams would like help, like that signing would help him or would help the team overall like get better and stuff. But it's like they're just not going anywhere in a positive way. Lonzo's probably gonna end up getting traded because So their bench, like who else is really on their bench besides JJ Redick?
Alexander Walker, but like he's not really offense though. He's defense. But
they have Jackson Hayes still, right?
Yeah, they do. But I've heard nothing about him, or you really don't have a bench, and it's killing him.
Yeah, I agree.
What Eric Bledsoe costs? Has he been?
He's a starter.
He is.
Him and Lonzo are the backcourt. He's doing decent. I thought they would be like mid-low playoffs, but I guess not.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Eric Bledsoe fan.
I'm not either, but
I think Drew Holiday is a better player to have there.
But they fleeced the Bucks from that trade. So hopefully in the future they'll use those first round picks and
exactly
put on their team.
Yeah, they have a lot of money like on their books, so because Steven Adams has a huge contract, Ingram has a huge contract, Zion's rookie contract's almost up, so that's gonna be something. And so I agree 100% with that. Sorry. Anything else about
host?
Huh?
Thanks for the upgrade, host.
I didn't do that. All right, so I guess it's my turn for my disappointing team. So, I chose the Sacramento Kings as my disappointing team.
Yeah.
So
that's a good pick.
The Kings overall, like as a team, they're just like they have a bunch of pieces that on paper are supposed to be a really good team, but they just don't play like a good team. Like I was watching a couple Kings games, and it's like Darren Fox just stands out so much. He's having a career year. Like they literally run their offense entirely through him. Like the ball's always in his hands, and it's just like his surrounding just isn't good. Buddy Hield, like he was supposed to be like a nice second option, like reliable shooter. He's just not shooting the ball good. It's like he doesn't have confidence in his game. It seems like Marvin Bagley, especially, that man had a really good rookie year, but he took a huge step back this sophomore year. He's just not doing what he's supposed to be doing. Like his dad said that he was supposed to be like Tim Duncan with a shot, but he's like playing like Robin Lopez with a shot. Like it's just not like it's not what you want from your top 5 pick like in the draft. They have a great future, don't get me wrong, but they need to start improving fast before their future pieces like split up. Like I can see like Rashawn Holmes is like he's having a really good year, but it's just the fact that like all he really does is rebound. Like he's like a nice post player, but like I don't know. They just don't have a lot of good pieces around, and like that's causing them not to be successful. And so besides Darren Fox, like I said, like they're just disappointing.
I think that could go further than just this season as well. I mean, the Kings have been disappointing for how long now? Oh, yeah. I mean, they've had a lot of talent, bright future talent, almost like what they have now. I mean, you got to think they had Hassan Whiteside before he was anything big with Isaiah Thomas, Demarcus Cousins. Like they've had plenty of young talent. Honestly, I don't even know.
I'm pretty sure he's back on the Kings.
But they've had plenty of young talent, like at its core, and they've never been able to capitalize. Everyone just wants out. I don't know what it is. I think probably it's got to be something to do with the franchise as a whole and how it's run, because people seem to not want to stay there. They don't land any big free agents. And when they do have young talent, they can't figure it out. So I agree. That's a very good pick for this year, but I think it could extend a lot further than just calling them disappointing this season.
Some people call the Clippers the little brother of the LA Lakers, but I think the Sacramento Kings are the little brother of California teams.
Sure. Literally.
Yeah.
Have the Kings ever won a championship? I don't think they've ever won a championship. So. And it's
they haven't been to the playoffs in how long now?
For like 10 years.
Yeah, it's one of the longest in the NBA, I think, and it's a shame. They've had some really good players. They just haven't been able to put it together, whether that's the players themselves being the ones to blame or the front office. I think you got to point some fingers at some front office guys at this point, because they got all the people on paper.
Their droughts have 13 years now. 13 years without the playoffs.
And that's horrible when more than half your conference makes the playoffs.
Like I get it, the West is like usually like good, but
but let's be real. The West always has those like that 7 and 8 seed that are just terrible. They're usually very strong 1 through 5, 1 through 6. But I mean,
Ja Morant got into the playoffs last year.
Yeah,
you can't get a team into the playoffs once.
Yeah,
not discrediting Ja, but like, come on, one season.
Like the fact that they're 13 and 20,
especially all the talent they've had. I mean, Demarcus Cousins was hyped up as the greatest big man of like the generation for a time. He was dominant. He really kind of gave like flashbacks of Shaq.
Oh yeah,
he could score on the post with his back to the basket. He started to develop a 3-point shot, and they couldn't build anything around him.
And he really shined once he left. Him and Anthony Davis.
Didn't
work until he got
together.
hurt.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been able to recover from those, which is a shame because I love Demarcus Cousins.
Yeah, it was pretty much a career wasted at that point. Injuries absolutely ruined it.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the worst thing that they did was hire Luke Walton as their coach.
He is such a bad coach.
That's true.
But the coach before, they went like 500, and then Luke Walton came in the next year, and they just got worse since. So I don't know what that was about, but
no, he's
making some questionable decisions, I must say.
Even the Lakers, like when he coached the Lakers with like LeBron, terrible.
It was bad.
So yeah, that's why they fired him. But yeah, the Kings, yeah, like I said, just should be better.
That's spot on.
Yeah. All right. So anything else about the Kings? No? All right. So next we're going to move to our most achieving player right now for the first half. So who hasn't started yet? John, you can start. Who's your most achieving?
My most achieving player is, and this one's kind of tough to call most achieving because of kind of the point I made to fill up with the most achieving team, but I'm going with Zach Levine. I mean, this is a player who just 2-3 years ago had a torn ACL, a pretty nasty one too. And as we see, players sometimes struggle to recover from that. And he's just progressively gotten better and better each year. Coming up to this year, he's averaging just under 30 points a game, and he's averaging like 5 rebounds and 5 assists a game. And I think he's been a big contributor for the Bulls as a whole, and he's a well-deserved all-star. And obviously, Zach Levine, we knew him as a high flyer, dunk contest, but he was never really talked about for his game on the court. He never really did anything crazy or was known as like a leader. And I think he stepped up big, and he's like made it known that, he can lead a team. He can contribute. So I think he's my most achieved player.
I think he could win most improved player this year. He has a chance. I really think he does.
That'll be later on that we talk about most improved player. But yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Zach Levine, like obviously like the Bulls weren't supposed to be in the playoffs, but like he's shooting like I think a career best for the field. And about 4 years ago, like he was just known as a dunker. Like he was just a high flyer from Minnesota that all he did was dunk. And he worked on his game like over like summers, and now he's like a legitimately like top 5-10 scorer in the NBA. So yeah,
right now he's shooting 44% from 3 this year, which is
that's insane.
Very good numbers. I mean, before that he was barely touching 35%, if that. He's getting to the free throw line a lot more than this year too. A lot more this year than years past. And you're right, he's just a much better scorer. He's proven to be an offensive weapon.
I think a lot of that has to do with his environment too, because when he was on the Timberwolves, he was very clearly not the number one option, and probably wasn't even thought about to get buckets himself. But on the Bulls, it's just him. They will let him do whatever. The offense goes through him, and he's really thrived in that role, and that's how he's emerged as a star.
Yeah, I think that definitely plays a huge role. But I mean, people can be given an opportunity and not perform. So I mean,
You're
I
right.
think.
And he stepped up.
The fact that he stepped up, especially coming off an injury like that, you're trying to recover, but you're also in a new place. And it's just, I don't know, I think he exceeded a lot of people's expectations. I don't think any of us would have been sitting here last year saying he's going to be an all-star next year. We might have guessed it as like a bold take, but I mean, as like a legitimate guess, I don't know how many people would have made it.
I mean, people last year thought he got snubbed from the All-Star thing, but
those were only Bulls fans. Really?
Yeah, sure. It was just like his team wasn't good. Like they were like bottom of the barrel of the East, and he was just putting up basically empty stats. So that's why I feel like he wasn't an all-star last year. But this year his Bulls I think are the 8 seed right now, and like they have a legitimate shot of actually making the playoffs. I don't know how far they'll go, but they have a legit shot of making the playoffs. So yeah, I like that pick a lot. Koss, how about you, man? Who do you have as your most achieving player?
All right. DeJounte Murray. Him and DeRozan are leading the way for the Spurs, who are the 5th or 6th seed, and they're over 500. He's averaging 15 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists a game. And his offense has honestly improved so much. He's usually known as a defensive guy. And just 2 years ago, he torn cruciate ligament, and he was out for the whole year. And he's still improving. He's shooting 45% from the field. His 3-point shot isn't really there yet, but he always has time to improve. I don't really watch much Spurs game, but I saw him watch the Celtics not too long ago, and his defense was just crazy, getting steals in the clutch. He's not a guy that will get you like all-star selections, but he'll get all defensive teams in the future for sure.
For sure.
That's the Spurs for you, though.
Yeah, they're always like so like underrated, the Spurs. And DeJounte Murray's having a really good underrated season. And the fact, like, for his defense, I think what helps him is that he's literally 6'7" with like, I think his wingspan's like 7+ feet. Like,
yeah,
he's insanely like slender, I'd say. But yeah, DeJounte Murray, yeah, I like that a lot. Any other comments about my man DeJounte? Yeah, the fact that he actually like got hurt and like came back like how he is now is actually insane.
Yeah, still getting better.
Yeah, good for him. All right, Bass, who do you got most?
So I got a kid that a lot of people, they call him Drake. They mistake him for Drake. I got Fred VanVleet as my most overachieving player, averaging 20, 4.5 rebounds, 7 assists, and almost 2 steals a game. He had a 50-point game a couple weeks ago. That was insane. And he seems like he's really ready to take the starting point guard role in Toronto. And he's quickly becoming the best player in Toronto because, as you know, Pascal Siakam is not good. He's not good. He's not good. He can't lead a team. And I think this is Fred VanVleet's team. And he's really stepped up.
I agree with that.
I think him and Lowry are so good together. Like, Lowry's more of a defensive guy, while Fred VanVleet's more of like an offensive guy, and those two together are really good.
Yeah.
And especially now with Kyle Lowry's name kind of being thrown around in trade talks. I mean, they just mentioned him to Philly because that's where he grew up. But like, and who knows how much traction that's going to get. But I think he's really stepped up to be. He wants to be that number one player in Toronto, and I think he's very well capable of doing that.
I agree with the pick a lot. I like it a lot. And honestly, the Raptors were in my consideration for most achieving team. I mean, they won that finals with Kawhi. Kawhi leaves, and everyone thought they were going to fizzle out. And every single year, they continue to say they're done. They're done. Well,
oh, yeah.
They just stick around. I don't know what it is. Is it Nick Nurse? Is it Kyle Lowry? But I think Fred VanVleet's for sure going to be next up to take on that role in Toronto. And he's just, I don't even know how to explain his game. He's just unreal.
He's still pretty young too, right?
He's still very young.
And the scary thing is that early in the year, Toronto struggled, but right now they're a 4 seed in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, they're back in it.
Yeah, they're back.
That's turnaround.
Everyone thinks they're done, and then all of a sudden they're just there. Like,
yeah,
no one knows why or how. They're just there.
A lot of that has to do with Nick Nurse because he is a really good coach.
Yeah, no,
as a Celtics fan, I don't really like him, but I have to give him his credit.
Like him.
He is such a good coach, and he gets the most out of his players, and I really respect him for that.
Agreed. Shout out to Freddie. All right, so for mine, we kind of already talked about like for my most achieving player, but I'm taking the man from the University of Kentucky. I'm taking Julius Randle as my most overachieving player. So early in his career, like when he got drafted to the Lakers, he just like he wasn't producing. Like he was like an average like rookie. Like, yeah, this guy's gonna be like all right, but like no one thought he'd like turn out to be like anything like insane really. And like he's had his struggles a couple years. Like his game hasn't developed to like an NBA type level game, but obviously, like we see this year, this man's averaging like 24 points and 11 rebounds on an actual playoff team that he's carrying.
Yeah.
And no one thought the Knicks would be anything like we talked about, but his single-handedly, he's carrying this team to be like an actual playoff contender and like an actually like good team. So shout out to the first-time All-Star Julius Randle, and yeah, I picked Julius Randle as my overachieving player.
Well-deserved All-Star too, I must say.
Very well, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's been phenomenal. A lot of people just tossed him aside and think he wouldn't be doing anything after the Lakers, and he's really, really flourished with the Knicks, and it's happy to see that.
He has so many.
His rookie year, he only played like 5 minutes, and he got injured for the rest of the year. So it's good to see him like doing really well.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So now it's time for the first half awards. So, so for this, we're gonna be talking about like basically like.
Excuse me,
Phil, underachieving player.
Yeah, we need our most disappointing players.
Sorry.
Hey, you're good. You're good.
I'm losing my. Yeah. So, so now we're talking about our most underachieving players, basically like overachieving, but for the first half, like I said. So, Bess, you can start. So, who's your most disappointing player right now?
All right. So, there's a few ways you can take this, and I took the approach of he's really been good, but has not really been so good in the first half of the season. And I'm taking Kemba Walker. And it really pains me to say this as a Celtics fan because I want to gas my guys up, but I just can't gas up Kemba Walker. Now, I do have to say he has started with some injuries, so who knows if that's been lingering or if that's had any type of effect on him. But he's been out there and he's been playing a lot of minutes, so I don't think you can say that injuries have really affected his play so far. Now, the other night, he did just drop 32 points and his best game of the season, and that was really good to see. But before that, he's averaging 30 minutes per game, 17 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 38% from the field and 35% from three-point range. And he's been super inconsistent. He'll have games where he'll score way below 10 points. And I just think the Celtics and Brad Stevens have expected a lot more from him. I know I've expected a lot more from him. And for his whole career, he's been known as this clutch guy. I mean, we saw it in college as UConn. We saw that everyone knows that nasty step back he hit. And he got the name Cardiac Kemba because he'll rip your heart out in clutch time. And he's just not been good in crunch time. We've seen him plank clock shots inside of 2 minutes and he'll walk off and smile. Like, I know that's a way to just kind of shake it off, but it's not a good look. And his worst game was against the Lakers. He shot 1 for 12 and finished with 4 points.
Oh, that's painful.
So hopefully that 32-point game, he'll be able to turn it around. But his first half of the season just hasn't been good so far.
Well, Bass, I had the same exact person as you. It pains me. I'm with you. I want him to do good. I bought the jersey and everything. I wanted the best for him. You take a player who, balled out in Charlotte, and that was back when they were a pretty poverty franchise. They're going to get talent around him. I mean, Charlotte cheered for him to move on because they wanted him to just go on and be great. And you have a Celtics team with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown who are balling out. Obviously, you expect him to be a little down with numbers, but you can't pay a man a max contract and then see the performance you're seeing out of him. I mean, he can't make a damn shot. Like, that's just how it feels. Like, he pulls up for 3 and it looks like such a good look and it's an air ball. It's a back rim under 2 minutes. And like you said, you nailed it perfectly when you talked about the step back. Cardiac Kemba, that's what he is. He steps back, it's an automatic make. That's what it's supposed to be. And I mean, the Lakers, the 1 for 12 game, you have a chance to hit a game winner against a history-long rival, the defending NBA champs, and I don't know, he just hasn't performed. He's way underperformed, in my opinion. And I think the Celtics, on paper, are a very good team, and they should be performing a lot better than they are. And I agree that injuries could be a big problem, but I don't know how much we can give injuries as the excuse for the performance we're seeing. I mean, you pay a man that much money, he's your max contract point guard. He's supposed to be your guy. And I feel like we can't depend on him in the game when it gets tough. And that's kind of the point. That's what I think that's the biggest difference between a player making 20 million and getting to that 30 million is, can you trust them with the ball in their hands late in the game? Like, that's when you earn that money, are you clutch? I mean,
oh yeah, I agree.
Sucks to see. 100%.
And to think he was an all-star starter last year, and if you would even consider his name with being an all-star reserve or being one of those sub-in guys for an injured guy, someone would laugh at you.
Yeah.
It's been such a big drop-off so far, and it's such a shame to see because I've really liked Kemba throughout his career, but just disappointed so far this first half.
I think a problem with Kemba Walker is that in Charlotte, he was always a man with the ball. Like, no one else on his team remotely was even a decent scorer. I think his next best score was Jeremy Lamb or something like that.
Yeah, I agree with that point a lot. But I mean, you got to compare it to last year and what we saw. I mean, last year the Celtics looked so promising. I mean, Kemba Walker before he got injured. I mean, we had, before injuries took over, we had 4 guys averaging was it over 25 or was it just over 20?
Over 20.
Either way,
20.
though, over 20. You have 4 guys that are averaging over 20, and Kemba was very passive with the ball and still getting his. I mean, there was all those reports early about Tatum, Brown, and all them telling Kemba, like, you shoot the ball. You can shoot the ball. You don't have to be so passive with us. So you have someone who's distributing like crazy and still dropping 20. I mean, he was balling out last year, and they had a lot of promise. And I think they expected him to almost step up even more with Gordon Hayward not being there anymore. He'd have more opportunity with the ball in his hands, and he just hasn't done it. Hasn't executed.
Yeah, I agree with Kemba Walker. I was actually going to choose him, but like, you guys are Celtic fans, I knew someone would choose him, so I'm not trying to. Yeah. So, yeah. Anything else about Kemba?
In that 32-point game, he found success in his mid-range shot, and I think that's something he could really focus on. Like, his threes really haven't been on it this season, so I think he should. I know Brad Stevens is a big preacher in shooting threes, and that's been kind of his thing as a coach, but he found some success shooting mid-ranges, and I think if he sticks to that, he'll be pretty good, because he can't really survive driving to the basket because he is barely 6 feet at the end of the day, and it's tough for him to compete with the 7-footers down there. He can't really get shots up, and we've seen him getting just stuffed.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, Koss, what you got? Most disappointing?
Davonte Graham. He was my most improved player last year personally, averaging like 18, 7 assists, and the year before he only averaged like 4 points. I honestly, even with the additions of Hayward, LaMelo Ball, and all those guys, I thought maybe at least his shooting percentages would go up. But his numbers are down to like 13 points, 5 assists, and his shooting actually got worse. I thought he would improve in some aspect of his game, but he has been injured lately. The other guys, like Terry Rozier, is having an amazing season. He's outshining him. Obviously, LaMelo is outshining him, and Hayward's having a great year too. Hopefully in the second half he can do better, but he is my most disappointing player.
The thing with Devonte Graham that sucks is that he got hurt like, I don't know how long ago, but he's been sidelined for like a couple weeks. So that obviously like that takes away like a little bit, but like even at the beginning, like I'm pretty sure he came off the bench, or I don't know if he started with Rozier or came off the bench. I'm not sure.
They both started, and people wanted LaMelo to take over.
Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree. Devonte Graham supposed to be like, I think he should have been like close to like last year's, or maybe even like a little below, whatever. But he's just not performing like he really should be. So yeah, I agree with that there. Anything else about Devonte?
I think a lot of people could point to his struggles by them adding LaMelo Ball, and like that he's not really the primary guy there. But LaMelo Ball has proven that he's been a pretty good passer, and has shown that with his assist totals. So I don't know if you can really say that they've added pieces and that's the fault of him doing bad. I think a lot of that is just on him.
Yeah, some people call him LaMelo Magic 2.0. I don't think he's anywhere close to Magic Johnson, but
no, and that's disrespectful to Magic.
Yeah,
but he's been real good his rookie season.
He's been only up from there. So
ESPN, I'll tell you all about his rookie stats.
Bleacher Report.
Oh, really?
Oh my god!
I haven't heard about it yet.
Every day.
So I'm gonna move to my most disappointing. So I didn't choose someone based off of stats. I chose basically how they play. So I chose Trae Young as my most disappointing player for the sole aspect of how his game has not evolved. It's been the opposite. People are it's league wide. Like, people are complaining about Trae Young, like how he plays. Like, he just tries to draw fouls, and it's not basketball if you watch Trae Young play. Like, he's a hell of a player. Don't get me wrong. I love watching Trae Young play, but just how he's like developed into the NBA isn't what like fans, like a bunch of people wanted him to really do. All he like does is like he comes off screens and like waits for the defender to come behind him and like basically leans back into him and draws the foul. And it's just getting to the point where it's like, this isn't fun to watch. Like, no fan wants to watch him do that like 10 times a game. So yeah, that's why I chose Trae Young. His numbers are still great, by the way, but it's just he's ruining the game of basketball by doing that.
I agree. He came from having killer highlights. I mean, pulling up from the logo just because screw it, he can, to his obviously famous nutmeg when he was dribbling between people's legs, and now
people hated that.
Now he's pretty much just settled to let me get to the free throw line.
Exactly.
And coaches weren't going to vote him.
Oh yeah.
And I think
as an all-star reserve.
I think it's a big thing to like talk about his toughness. I mean, a lot of players will come in the league, do good, and then they get figured out. And it's, can you take your game to the next level? And that's the biggest thing about taking your game to the next level is not really improving skill. Obviously, everyone in the NBA is very skilled, but can you adjust to how the defense is going to adjust realistically? Because they're going to figure out, they're going to know what you're going to do. And you have to be tough enough to be willing to change your game almost and be able to do more in the court. And he just kind of has resorted to, I found an easy way out of it instead of trying to advance himself.
Yeah.
No, I wonder how it feels like having your idols say like your game is like garbage. Like Steve Nash like criticized him so hard for just drawing fouls, and
but maybe that will motivate him to change what he does. Hopefully, because Trae Young is borderline unwatchable.
It's not fun to watch.
No.
Which it sucks to see, because literally he was one of the most fun players to watch these past 2 years.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, a lot of people doubted him right out of college for sure. I mean, he had a lot of haters, and he just went out. He was an all-star last year, and he's just been great. And then you see him kind of resort to this, the rule says I can do this, let's do this instead.
Yeah, like when Trae Young got drafted, I thought like for sure like he's gonna be like Steph Curry 2.0. Like I watched him in college, like the way he played, like he literally plays just how Steph Curry does, like deep shots, like insane handles, like a quick ball handler, and it's like, and he was doing that his rookie year, and even like his second year. It was just like, just this year, it's just not what everyone expected from him. So that's why I chose my man Trae Young. He wore his jersey, but whatever. So now, first half awards. So basically, we're doing all the end of the season awards, but for the first half, obviously. So we're gonna start with Coach of the Year. And so Bass, who's your Coach of the Year right now?
So this is gonna be a little bit of a shocker to you guys, but my first, because Coach of the Year almost always just goes to whoever's in first. They get Coach of the Year. But I got Doc Rivers as my Coach of the Year. It's his first year in Philly, and he's brought this Philadelphia team together when they kind of underachieved last season. And in his first season, he's brought him to the 1 seed in the East, and we've noted that the East isn't that strong this year, but the East is very top heavy right now. The Brooklyn Nets are, a lot of people have them as winning the NBA Finals. And obviously the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis are a very good team. And if you look at the top right now, it's Philly. And they've really overachieved, in my opinion, because I don't know if they'd be able to hang with the Nets or the Bucks, if they'd be able to hang with the big dogs. And they've proven that they have with the 1 seed right now.
Agreed.
So it's another one we have the same exact answer on.
Let's go. Come on.
You take a team that, for the most part, I feel like it's underperformed for a while. I mean, we all know Joel Embiid is what he's been these past couple of years. Everyone hypes up Ben Simmons as Stephen A. says, he's a jump shot away from being LeBron James. Now, that might be an exaggeration, but you get the point of it. We see the talent that these guys have, and they don't really have much to show for it. I mean, 43 and 30 last year, and then first round playoff exit. I mean, they haven't been able to get over that hump. And what do you do? Yeah, swept, literally. And you take a roster of mainly the same guys, and you get rid of Brett Brown. You bring in someone like Doc Rivers, who, for the most of his career, I thought he was an overrated coach. I mean, I feel like he got a lot of hype over the success in Boston, even though that was just a very, very talented roster. And then he goes over to Clippers and can't get them over the hump there. So he's a guy that I thought was overrated for a long time. But, I mean, he comes in and he's got Joel Embiid playing at MVP level. He's got Ben Simmons playing at a potential defense player of the year level, and he's getting the most out of those guys. And like you said, they're the number 1 seed in the league, 22-12 so far in the season. And you bring up a great point when you talk about everyone has the Nets winning the title or going to the title and playing against the Lakers, whoever wins it, either way. Yeah, for Lakers probably. So, I mean, the fact that everyone's kind of talking about how good these other teams are, and at the end of the day, the 76ers are still number 1. There's a reason for that, and if you look at the difference from now to the past couple of years, it's Doc Rivers.
I think besides, like, Doc Rivers is doing good, but I think Ellen Brand should win GM of the year. He's like the people that he brought in Dwight Howard, who's obviously a great backup for Joel Embiid, Seth Curry, who's playing actually really good this year, and then Danny Green. Like that, those are 2 shooters surrounding Joel Embiid, who has the ball in his hands basically every play. They run.
That's exactly what they needed, shooters.
He's one of the big issue for them.
3rd highest usage rate in the NBA, which like is like just give him the ball and like if they double team, you kick it to a shooter. Like, so yeah, Ellen Brand like crafted his team perfectly. So yeah, 76 is definitely for sure.
And I think a big thing to look at, like a coach stat, is your record on the road. And last year, as we all know, the Sixers were one of the worst teams in the league when it came to on the road. They've really improved that this season and are now one of the top teams. Now it does help that there are no fans or less fans there, but I think it still is to give credit to Doc Rivers that he's improved this team.
Oh yeah, for sure. Koss, who'd you have for your coach of the year?
All right. My coach of the year for the first half is Monty Williams of the Phoenix Suns.
That's a good pick.
Yeah. All right. So they added CP3, which definitely helps with the winning, but I still thought they would be like a 7 or 8 seed. You know what I mean? They lost Aaron Baines, who had like his best season of his career. Kelly Oubre, he went crazy. And they went 8-0 in the bubble with Monty Williams as their coach too. And before that, they could barely get 20 wins. They were 14 seed, 15 seed. They improved a lot last season with Williams as their coach. Mikal Bridges, he's having a great year. He's developing the young guys. He has great rotations. So yeah, Monty Williams, my first half coach of the year.
Yeah, they're so surprising to me. And like
21-10 in the 4 seed.
Yeah, I think Chris Paul, he's not having like over the top amazing like year, but every team he goes to, he turns them to a playoff team.
Yeah.
Like
for
example,
that's something
like
I was
Thunder.
Gonna bring up was literally like Chris Paul has proven that, statistically, he's not one of the greatest point guards like we've seen him be before. But I mean, I think his leadership has shown so strong ever since leaving the Clippers. I mean, it's just every team he's played for has just been on a whole new level. And it's just he's elevating everyone around him. And I think his leadership shows a lot. And Koss, I love the pick. I think it's very good and a very well-deserved honor for him. I think your reasoning behind it was a little shaky with some of the points you brought up. But overall, I agree with the pick a lot.
I think one thing that's holding Phoenix back is DeAndre Ayton. Like, he's a great player, don't get me wrong, but he's so inconsistent. Like, his performance.
Consideration for most disappointing. If Kemba wasn't so bad, DeAndre Ayton would have been top of my list.
Yeah,
I was just going to ask. I haven't heard anything about DeAndre Ayton since he's been drafted.
There's a reason why he hasn't done much.
Really?
Some games he drops like 20 and 10 with like a couple blocks, and like some games it's like a 9 and like 8 game and playing like 30 minutes. Like, he just doesn't like perform how he should be for what he was the number 1 pick, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
How he should be performing for the number 1 pick in the draft. So, yeah, I like that pick a lot. So I was juggling between 2 teams for coach of the year. I was gonna pick either Quinn Snyder, or I was gonna pick him, but I just like he's doing good, but like I'm picking Greg Popovich in my coach. So
all right.
So Greg Popovich, obviously, like he's been yes sir, like he's been good. Like he's been obviously like a historically great coach for like many years. Like he coached like the Tim Duncan Spurs that obviously had their reign in the mid like 2010s. But this year, like LaMarcus Aldridge missed a bunch of games due to like whatever the heck's going on with him, and like obviously he's DeMar DeRozan, and then just he has a bunch of young guys who like haven't really like proven themselves to be great. So I think obviously like DeMar DeRozan's having a great year, but the surprising thing is the play of Kelden Johnson. Like before this year, I had no idea who Kelden Johnson was. I'm gonna be honest. Like I'm pretty sure he went to one of the big blue schools. I'm not really sure which one, but he's playing absolutely out of his mind. Like I think he's averaging like 18 points a game, like with DeMar DeRozan.
Really?
DeMar DeRozan. Like he's having an excellent year. And Greg Popovich is using him very well. His team's a 5 seed right now, which no one expects the Spurs to be the 5 seed. Like the Spurs are always like around, like maybe like a 9, 8 seed, but being a 5 seed right now with DeMar DeRozan and like basically hurt LaMarcus Aldridge is very impressive. So that's why I chose Greg Popovich as my coach of the year, is because how he uses his players and how well they're doing it.
I like that pick. I mean, Popovich is one of those guys. He's like LeBron in the MVP talks. I mean, LeBron may not have like the best season, or whatever team he's on may not always be the best in some people's eyes, but he's always in MVP talks because he's one of the most valuable guys. And I think that's the same thing for Popovich. It's always one of those guys that just elevates his players to the next level and could always be in the conversation for coach of the year.
Agreed. Yeah. Anything else about my man Pop? No. All right. So next, we're moving on to most improved player, and Jake Koss, you can start.
All right, I'm gonna go with Phillips' boy, Jeremy Grant, as the most improved player.
I love that.
You know, Pistons aren't very good. I'm sorry, Phil, but you know he is one of the bright spots of the team. He's averaging like 11 more points a game. He's even averaging like 5 assists, which is pretty good. You know, he really has taken over that number 1 option. He's doing very well with that. Against the Celtics, I don't watch many Pistons games, but against the Celtics, he's been very well. And even the fans have noticed. Like he received All-Star votes, and he was like top 10 at some point for front court players. And in the offseason, when I saw him sign that like 3-year, $60 million deal, I was kind of confused, but he's proven me wrong. He's my most improved player for the first half.
I also chose Jeremy Grant as my most improved player.
I also did as well.
I did as well.
Let's go.
Really?
We all chose Jeremy Grant.
Oh,
I think it's no question.
It's clear cut.
He's been so good. Close. I mean, you're trying to turn into that number 1 role in a team, and you jump. I only wrote down all the stats just because I still think they're ridiculous. They amaze me. 12 points to 23, 3.5 assists to 5.9, 1.2 rebounds to 2.9. I mean, he's just anywhere on the court. He's just overall improved, and he's really taken on that role. And I think it shows great leadership skills. And yeah, it sucks that he's doing this in the year that the Pistons maybe should be tanking. But I mean, I think he's proven himself to be a well-established leader on a team and a well-deserved starter.
So when I heard, like in Denver, when he was like I'm not trying to like be like a third option, like I want my own team, I was confused because I couldn't see him as being like a first option.
Exactly.
Based on how he was playing in Denver. Like he was more like a 3-and-D type of guy that like occasionally like had like nasty like dunk highlights. But now he's turned into like, give me the ball and like I can like run pick and roll, I can like ISO, I can do whatever. So the fact that he's elevated his game to that level in 1 year just is amazing to me. So yeah.
Now Phil, you're a big Pistons guy. Huge. We all know this, but you're a huge Pistons guy. So I assume you've seen a few Pistons games.
I've seen a good amount.
So the Pistons are bad this season, but we know that, right? And Jeremy Grant has been one of the very few upsides of the team. As he stepped up, do you think that if he had actual help, the Pistons would be a good team, or do you think that he'd be a really good number 2 on a contending team?
It's tough because
good question.
It's tough because in Denver, he was like a number 3 and he wasn't doing as good. But I think if he was a number 1 option and we surrounded him with a bunch of young talent and a bunch of good players, I don't see us as like obviously like championship contenders, but like I can see us being like a mid like 6 seed, 5 seed.
Oh yeah,
because like even this year, like Pistons only beat teams that are above 500. Like that's the only thing they do.
So weird.
And like
so weird.
I don't know. And like we like get blown out by like teams like the Kings or something like that. I don't know. But even like this year, like the Pistons have like upside. Like Sadiq Bey, like no one expected him to be like that good of a rookie. He's a really good shooter. Dennis Smith Jr., who like we just signed, he just dropped like 20-something points in like back-to-back games. Like
he's starting.
Like, yeah.
He's benefited from the trade.
He's starting because DeLon Wright got hurt. That's the only reason he's starting. But yeah, I think Jeremy Grant, like hopefully next year when Pistons get number 1 pick and get Cade Cunningham, yes sir. Hopefully when that happens, he can continue that play and Pistons can actually like make some sort of a push. That's crazy that we all chose Jeremy Grant. That's kind of funny.
I mean,
we might all agree on this next one too.
Probably.
For Rookie of the Year.
Oh yeah, it shouldn't be a debate, but I think it will be. I think it will be.
All right, John.
It's gonna be 3 versus 1.
John, who do you have as your Rookie?
Or 2.
Me, along with Bass and Koss at least, are all gonna have LaMelo Ball. Phil, you probably have Anthony Edwards, don't you?
No, he's got Halliburton. I bet he's got Halliburton.
Killian Hayes.
So
I'll go on mine at first. I think
talk about.
I just say LaMelo Ball has just done it all on a court. I mean, he's got some decent talent around him in Charlotte. I think nothing crazy, obviously, but I mean, you bring Gordon Hayward into town, you got Terry Rozier, and like he's got some guys around him, and he's still just performing. Situation where it's not like a lot of rookies where if they're a high draft pick, you're playing for dog water teams, and it's like you can go play 30 minutes a game and chuck up 30, 40 shots to pad your stats. Like, I think he's playing in like a good, organized, well-rounded organization, and 15, 6, and 6 out of a rookie. I mean, Lonzo didn't adjust this well either. And LaMelo just kind of came right in. And I think that was big fear with a lot of teams is LaMelo going to be a lot like Lonzo? I mean, he balled out for the past years, but is he going to be able to adjust? I think LaMelo had an advantage because he could always shoot the ball a little better, but a lot of players, their shots don't adjust to the NBA right away. And I think LaMelo is an exception to that. And I think he's been exceptional on the court.
I think he's comparable to his brother Lonzo, except he trades in shooting and scoring when Lonzo's a better defender.
Yes, I agree with that. I think that's very fair to say.
And I completely agree, John. I mean, he's been a top guy on a team that for most of the season has competed for a playoff seed. I mean, he's tied for 8th in the East with the Bulls and the Pacers. And he's been a 1 or 2 guy on that team. And he's just gotten to start now, and he's really shined in that role.
Yeah, ever since he's got the starting role, he's averaging over like 20 points a game. And the thing about the Hornets, they remind me of the Nets with D'Angelo Russell. They're not the best team, but they're fun and exciting. LaMelo Ball throwing up lobs to Miles Bridges is insane.
Airbnb.
They're a fun team to watch, and LaMelo Ball has definitely impacted that team.
And whoever commentates for their game brings the energy every single night. Oh my goodness.
Best announcers.
I'd run through a brick wall for that man.
So I was juggling, like obviously a bunch of rookies, but I also did choose LaMelo Ball.
Oh, okay. I'm shocked.
I'm shook. So I was gonna pick Halliburton or Edwards, but the main reason why I chose LaMelo Ball, obviously his stats are better, but the fact that his team's actually winning. The Timberwolves are the worst team in the league. Like, they're god-awful. Like, Anthony Edwards has a bunch of highlights. Obviously, like, he's inconsistent, but that's every rookie. Like I said before, the Kings, like disappointing. They're my most disappointing team. Halliburton's like a shining dude. I think both of them are going to have great sophomore seasons, but I think LaMelo Ball definitely deserves a rookie right now.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think the only knock have on LaMelo is how much screen time he gets on ESPN.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because the same thing happens with Zion.
Zion 2.0.
And that was
Zion, we went through 2 days of
player.
Sports Center coverage because he ripped through his shoe in a game. I mean,
Literally.
a ripped shoe literally got more coverage than the actual game.
Yep.
And yeah.
Agreed. Anything else about the pretty obvious rookie of the year, LaMelo Ball?
That's 2 picks in a row. We've gone the same. Think we'll go the same on
3
on our next one?
I doubt.
I don't think so. I think it's pretty obvious.
So 6 man a year. I'm gonna actually say mine first because I actually want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if like you guys will actually agree with this, which I think you should. But I'm picking Jordan Clarkson as my 6 man of the year. Do we all choose that?
I got him.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I got him.
Oh my!
He's been amazing this year, man.
But yeah,
he's found a home with Utah.
Yeah,
dude, you come off the bench for the number 1 team and you're still dropping about 18 points with 5 rebounds and you're averaging 3 threes a game. I mean, when you're looking for someone to come off the bench as your main guy, I mean, obviously I'm a big believer in be able to defend the ball. That's what you look for in a bench player. But the second thing you need is someone who can literally just score the ball. And I mean, when you can take out players like Donovan Mitchell and throw Jordan Clarkson in and you know you're going to get buckets out of him, I mean, that's just a huge advantage. And I mean, his stats speak for himself. I mean, that's absurd. 18 points off the bench. He's pretty much averaging what Kemba is.
Also, something that's like so impressive to me is that he leads the league in free throw percentage. Shoots 96% from the free throw line.
Really?
Which leads the league.
That's one of the best all time. Yeah.
That like obviously it's been like 30 something games, but like he's easily playing. Like
still impressive.
He's a huge reason why Utah is how good they are because he comes off the bench and can drop like 20 points and like help you guys out. So yeah, Jordan Clarkson, I feel like I was gonna choose Chris Boucher. Like I was so close to choosing Chris Boucher, but he's just been going downhill. Like he started off the season like honestly in the defensive player of the year race. Like he was like doing that good. But like ever since like I don't know, he just been like just going downhill. He's still averaging like 2 blocks a game, which is insane. But he just I don't know.
It helps when your team's so good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think Jordan Clarkson's pretty obvious.
Just recently made a nasty highlight. Did you guys see that ankle breaker on one of the hometown kids, Michael Carter Williams?
Bro, that was so bad. He sent him
flying. Yeah. It looked a little scary though. It looked like his knee kind of gave out, but he was able to finish and it didn't really affect him.
Yeah.
But that was one of the nastiest spin moves I've seen in a minute. That was really nice.
Oh my god.
Well, even some of the shots he's making, he's getting like double teamed sometimes. He just hucks it up and makes it in.
Yeah, he's
a walking bucket.
He's always been like that, but it's just the teams don't really expose it. Like in Cleveland and like Los Angeles, like he was always like a explosive scorer. It's just like
he's
hasn't really like I don't know. Utah's really like helping his career out.
Yeah,
definitely.
All right, so it's 3 in a row choosing the same person. So hopefully for our next, which is defensive player of the year, we don't choose the same person. So
it's very possible.
I have a strange feeling we might. I think it's a clear-cut 2-person race.
All right, Bass, I want you to go first.
I agree.
All right, so my defensive player of the year. So a lot of people don't like him, including 2 people in this call, actually, Phil Jones and Jay Costello. They're avid haters of this man.
I hate him too.
And I like him. I'm a big fan. Rudy Gobert, my defensive player of the year. Rudy Gobert, the guy who canceled the entire NBA.
I did not pick him. Jeopardized the season.
A lot of people were concerned that the chemistry between him and Donovan Mitchell would be bad. And I had my doubts as well, but apparently they had a really good talk during the offseason and they patched things over, which was good to see. And they've been really good together. And then we're going a little bit of advanced stats. And Rudy Gobert is number 1 in the league in defensive rating and is also number 1 in the league in defensive win shares and has been the anchor to one of the best defensive teams in the league, the Utah Jazz, and the total best team in the league. He's just the anchor that team needs. So Rudy Gobert is my pick for defensive player of the year.
Bass, I had the same guy as you. I did.
Shocker, John.
All our first half awards are the same so far. I mean, you listed the stats perfectly. I mean, you got the best defensive rating. You're the anchor to the best team in the league so far. And, I feel like you put yourself at such an advantage when you have someone who can protect the rim. I mean, obviously, perimeter defenders are great. And my second option, or the one that I think is a clear-cut second, would be Ben Simmons. But, I mean, I feel like there's so much more value having somebody protect the paint as opposed to on the perimeter. And Rudy Gobert just gives you that extra dimension. And he's just been dominant.
I've always said the paint in basketball is like a run game in football. Every offense needs to be good in that area, and every defense needs to be able to stop them in that area. And Rudy Gobert has been really good defensively and has been not the best offensively, but I think that he's really improved his game and has shown that the Jazz are
alley-oop god, bro. All he does is catch alley-oops.
Oh yeah, and that's all they need him to do.
Exactly. Block shots.
Rudy Gobert, my man.
All right,
stepped
Jake,
up to his max contract as well.
I'm very interested. Since those two chose Rudy Gobert, who do you choose? Because we might have this.
All right. I didn't choose Ben Simmons.
I did not choose Ben Simmons.
Ooh.
Really? All right. I went with Miles Turner.
That's who I chose.
Ooh.
Come on.
All right. Let's just start off. He's averaging 3.5 blocks a game. That's literally insane. And he averages 1.5 steals too. And I feel like for a center, that's pretty impressive. And he's only 24. He's very young, and he's leading the defensive end for the Pacers. He makes centers look like they're guards. Like, he has protected the paint very well for the Pacers this year. Although they're not the best team, they're just outside the playoffs right now.
They're not tied for the 8th seed.
Yeah. He's protected the paint. He's leading the way for the defense for the Pacers.
So the last time a center averaged 3.5 blocks, only one center's ever done that for a whole season. It was Markey, and he averaged exactly 3.5 blocks. And the next person I think was Manu Bull, who averaged 3.3 or something like that. So if he can somehow keep this pace up and still get 1.5 steals a game, I think doesn't matter if his team makes playoffs or not. This is the best defensive performance we've ever seen.
Oh yeah, it's a top one.
Just think how insane 3.5 blocks is a game. Rudy Gobert, for example, he's a shot blocker. He's never averaged over 3 blocks per game. People thought Miles Turner was just this stretched center that didn't really wasn't
including you, Phil. Don't forget that.
Including me. And he's proving me wrong this year. He really he's stepping up huge on the defensive end. Him and Sabonis are such a good duo, nice offense defense combination. And I think Miles Turner is a clear-cut defensive player of the year right now.
And the Celtics were this close to him.
That close, yep.
Thanks, Danny.
Ainge got greedy, man.
He did.
Still mad about that.
We won't even use that trade exception.
Probably not.
That could be for another episode. We can
that was almost my bold prediction.
We might have
that was almost my bold prediction
that
they wouldn't make a trade, but I realized that wasn't a bold prediction at all. So I scratched it.
Bold prediction would be making a trade.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, so anything else about me and Jake's Miles Turner pick?
No, I can't really disagree. He's got the stats to back it up, and I think it's going to be a pretty tight race between those two.
Yeah, I also think
I agree. Those stats are
Ben
absurd
Simmons
and all,
also.
But I think the only reason I kind of lean towards Gobert is just defense. Yeah, his stats are good, but I kind of see defense players here as who's the most valuable player on the defensive side. And if you're the anchor and you're the main guy on a team that's really the best defense team in the league and you're winning games, I think that plays an important role. Obviously, those stats are absurd. You can't even argue that. And I don't think I could be disappointed saying that he would get it over Rudy Gobert at all. But to me, I think wins are kind of important in a lot of these because most of these awards are kind of describing value and almost leadership qualities with it too, especially on the defensive end. And I think Rudy Gobert just kind of has that influence and leadership throughout his whole entire team. And it's showing with how the Jazz are playing as a whole unit.
Yeah. I think Rudy Gobert will probably end up getting it because of how good Utah is. But
yeah,
that's how I feel.
You never know. Utah could go downhill in the second half.
It's going to be hard for Utah.
I think Ben Simmons could
win it all, right? I think Ben Simmons for sure.
He could be in the running for it, but the way I see it, Defensive Player of the Year is a center award, with the exception of Michael Jordan. It's a center award, and you're not really going to give it to a forward. So
Marcus Smart.
When was the last time he played?
It's been weeks.
It's been too long.
Yeah.
8 years.
Celtics are struggling without him. Anyway, so yeah. All right, here's a big one. Who right now is your boys' most valuable player of the league?
I think we can all agree.
John?
I don't know if we're going to all agree.
I think John's going to have a weird one.
All right, my MVP, I'm taking the exact approach of who I think is most valuable to their team. And it's tough to pick this guy because the wins aren't all there for sure. And that's why I was back and forth a lot. And obviously, I'm a big believer in Michael Jordan. Wow. LeBron James is the MVP every single year, realistically. He's the most valuable to a team. But this year, I'm going with Jokic. I mean, the Joker, dude.
Hey. Okay.
You're taking a center position and you're averaging 26 points, almost 11 rebounds, and you legitimately have a chance to get over the hump and become a triple-double average out of a center. You want to talk about adding value to a team. When you have your center dishing out 11 assists or 10 assists, he's just under 9 right now. But if he gets that, I mean, you have a center who can literally get a triple-double any night, and it's not like a center who's scoring without really distributing, which centers usually don't distribute much, obviously. But I think the only thing holding him back is obviously that the Nuggets aren't in the conversation for a deep playoff run or a high seed.
They're an 8 seed.
I think,
but they're only a game back of the 5 seed.
I mean,
yeah, it's really close.
I think as far as value add for a team, I mean, you're not going to see a center who's providing that much value. I mean, almost a triple double. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Out of a center, I mean, I just think it's absurd. It's just under 30 points, which is obviously Joel Embiid's averaging more points, around the same rebounds. But I mean, I think assists are huge because it shows how well-rounded you are as a player.
So did any of you boys choose
scoring.
Jokic or no?
I choose Jokic.
Chose Jokic as well.
I think you can choose Embiid because he's the best player on one of the best teams right now, and I wouldn't knock you for that. But in my eyes, usually MVP is the guy that's added the most value to your team, like John has said. I think it's obviously Jokic because without him this season, they would not be good at all. I think like they've lost guys, and I think Jamal Murray hasn't been as good as at least what people expected or as he was in the bubble. I mean, he was an assassin in the bubble. Him and Donovan Mitchell, those games were insane. And I think Nikola Jokic has really stepped up his game. And yeah, near triple double, it's crazy from a center. That's why I have him as my MVP.
He's transcending the game. He's going to start a wave of these centers wanting to be playmakers.
I hope so. That'd be great to see.
Yeah. So for me, I didn't choose Jokic. I was actually juggling between Jokic and the person I chose. I chose Joel Embiid. So for Joel Embiid, he's averaging 30 points a game, 11 rebounds, 3 assists. But the thing that really puts him at the top for me is how his percentages are. He's shooting 52% from the field, which like for a center, like whatever. He's shooting 40% from the 3, which centers don't shoot 40% from the 3-point line.
Big improvement for him.
And he's shooting 86% from the free throw line.
Wow.
Like he could be like obviously he's improved his free throw, but he could be like one of the first centers ever to get to be in the 50-40-90 club. Like no centers like ever do that. I think 9 people have ever done that, and they're all guards. Like I think the most recent was Malcolm Brogdon, I think 2 years ago or something like that.
Yep.
So yeah. And he's 3rd in usage rate and 3rd in win shares. And that part right there, like Jokic has him beat. Like Jokic is like 2nd in both of those. But I think like Embiid's carrying his team. Like obviously they're a 1 seed, like top of the East. But I think the thing that separates Jokic and Embiid the most is how like obviously both of their offenses run through each other. Like they both like have the ball constantly, but Jokic has like games where he drops like 13 points and like dishes out like 19 assists. And then like some games he drops like 50 points and like 7 assists. And there's no like balance that I really see with Jokic. It's either like he has a bunch of assists and like not a lot of points, or a bunch of points and not a lot of assists. Which with Embiid, I feel like it's more like, oh, like I'll give you like 30 a night, and like my assists obviously won't be great, but like I'll rebound the ball, I'll make my teammates better on the court. So that's why I personally think Embiid is the MVP of the league right now, and I think Jokic is a very, very, very close 2nd place.
I agree with that, and same with like his His defense. Embiid's defense is very good.
Mm-hmm.
He's protecting the paint very well. Obviously, his team is not going to play as well without him. Yeah, Joel Embiid's my pick too. I think Jokic is second. And do you guys see the updated MVP rankings? They have Harden like second, which I think is
it's Harden something else.
That's crazy.
I don't agree with it because like you have Kyrie and KD on your team.
Wow.
Harden shouldn't even be in the
his
Come on.
his time on the Rockets this season, he was so bad.
He didn't want to be there, so like his numbers weren't.
Oh wow, number 2. That's so disrespectful to Jokic. That's crazy.
All right, John, hold on. John, you can talk since you've been raising your hand.
All right, Phil. I think Joel Embiid's a great pick. Don't get me wrong, but I think the point you brought up about the consistency is just like absurdly terrible and way off.
Why?
I mean, yeah, you can say that Joel Embiid's going to get you 30 a night. That's consistency, and his assists can be bad. But I think Jokic being able to drop, like you said, 50 points and 7 assists, and then another night have 10 points and 19 assists, I think that adds a lot of value to a team because it's like every game's different. Every situation's different. Every matchup's different. When you have a player who can literally adjust game by game and do what's needed to win the game, obviously the winning hasn't been there all the time, but I don't see how that helps Embiid's case saying that, oh, he's going to get you the same amount of points every night. Which it's like, yes, consistency is huge, but I think being able to adjust and like adapt to the situation and be able to like see like when openings are like, oh, I'm being guarded like crazy, or oh, they have a good center. I'm gonna dish this out to my teammates. I'm gonna be a leader and sacrifice this for that. You know, and I feel like that almost helps Jokic's case more than it helps Embiid's mentioning consistency like that.
You're right.
I think the versatility shows like crazy.
He's been consistently versatile in his games, and that he can adjust his game based on his opponent, and that adjustment doesn't make him a worse player, and in fact elevates him or his teammates based on the game.
So another point I forgot to mention. So obviously Jokic like has the numbers like, and like obviously team's not winning, but he's still putting up great numbers. But the thing about Jokic that that I can't give him is his defensive performance. You're right. Jokic isn't very like, he's not a great defender. He's not a great shot blocker. Like he gets a bunch of steals a game, but there's like I see a bunch of highlights that Jokic gets dunked on, and like he just plays lazy on defense. Like he gets a bunch of defensive rebounds, but Embiid like right now Embiid's probably in the defensive player of the year race, and while dropping 30 and 10 on offense, and while his team's the number 1 seed in the East. And I feel like Jokic is more of like an offensive player, while Embiid can basically do both offense and defense.
I totally agree with that. I mean, the only knock on Jokic's game is really his defense, and Embiid really flourishes in that area. And that's why I like Embiid, because even though he'll torch my team, he's really bringing back that stereotypical big man. Like, yes, he'll shoot threes and stuff, but when his team really needs him in the clutch, they have him sitting down in the post, and he just absolutely dominates anyone that he comes across. And he's in the paint, anchoring his defense, blocking shots, and just impacting the game. And it's good to see that you can be successful as a traditional big man.
Yeah. All right. Anything else about Embiid versus Jokic, basically? I think Giannis is also having a very quiet MVP year, and like he could definitely be.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah, it's just I think other people are just outperforming him to the point where
I think we're used to Giannis playing so good. I think a little bit of voter fatigue is what we've seen with LeBron and MJ. Voter fatigue.
Yeah, kind of happened with Curry too. I think. I mean, obviously his stats dropped when KD arrived, but I mean,
Curry's having a great year this year.
Curry's having a great year this year.
So good to see him.
Curry's going to be talked about too.
Lillard, there's a bunch of people you can put in the competition, but it's like I don't see anyone beating out Embiid or Jokic for MVP, unless they give it to LeBron somehow, some way, whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So our final thing we're going to talk about is our bold prediction for the second half of the season. This could be about a team, player, coach, whatever. But I think most of us did it about a team. So does anyone want to start?
I'll start this one.
My
bold prediction is that that little basketball team out in Utah that is absolutely clowning everyone in the league right now. Number 1 seed, the Utah Jazz, will get bounced in the first round of the playoffs this year.
Ooh.
I can see
Wow.
that. I can see that.
Wow.
And yeah, I feel like it's a tough argument to make because they've just been so dominant against everyone they've faced. But at the moment, the way it's shaping up, obviously it's, I don't know, about to hit halfway, but it's still kind of early, so things could shift. But right now we're looking at the 7th seed of the Warriors, 8th seed of the Nuggets, 9th seed of the Mavericks. I think those are 3 very, very talented teams that, you know, are kind of just underperforming this year. And one of those 3 teams, I think, has a very likely will end up being the 8th seed. I think the Jazz are going to maintain the 1 seed. And I don't know. I feel like the Jazz, their success hasn't come from like one player's dominance, which is an advantage. They're very well-rounded, but I think it's their shooting that's been carrying them for the most part. I think it's kind of undeniable. Yeah. I mean, they're still averaging, 16, 17 3-pointers a game, like most in NBA history for a season. I mean, it's absurd. Can they carry that out for a 7-game series? I mean, is Donovan Mitchell, can he really lead a team in the playoffs? I mean, a lot of stuff that, yes, we've seen them be in the playoffs. We've seen them have success, but you're putting that up against a team led by Steph Curry, who has 3 rings. You're putting that up against a team like the Nuggets, who got really hot in the playoffs last year, who's to say they don't come back. And the Mavericks has, I believe it was Bass pointed out, was their most disappointing team. I believe it was you who said that. Most disappointing team, should be playing a lot better, can turn it around. And honestly, they're good. They're really good. They've been playing amazing this year, but I don't see them as a title contender. I shouldn't say title contender. I don't see them as a serious top dog threat to win the NBA title, though.
See, my thing about like that is that you can go 2 ways with that. Some people usually think Utah is like a fraud, like regular season team, and playoff time they always choke. Or you can go like how you see it right now. And what I see right now is that Utah as a team is going to be very hard to beat them in a 7-game series based on all the contributions they get offensively and defensively from all of their pieces. Like we said, Jordan Clarkson, 6th man of the year. Mike Conley's having a career breakout, yeah. And then like Rudy Gobert, defensive player of the year, like candidate. Like Bogdanovich and Ingles are 2 great shooters. And it's like, I just think it's going to be so hard to beat that team. But then again, I can see like the point where like they just like disappear in the playoffs, because it all depends on personally if Donovan Mitchell can take this team and carry them. And he's young. I don't know if
I think that's the big question of it. I think right now they've been very successful because they have been very well spread, like you said. But in the playoffs, no matter how well spread your team is, you don't have that one top dog who can take over, who can, minute left, we need a big possession, we need a big play. This person's gonna have the ball in their hands. You don't see minute left in the game, people passing around, running offensive sets. The ball's in one guy's hand, he's gonna make the play. Whether he's driving, whether he's stepping back. Like every team has that one guy. Can Donovan Mitchell be that guy? Me personally, if I'm taking in clutch time, I'm taking Steph Curry over Donovan Mitchell. Now, granted, obviously completely different teams, but I think Warriors are a big threat to them if they get in at the 8th. I think the Warriors are honestly, a little disappointing. I think they should have been better, but the Klay Thompson injury obviously is a huge blow to them. But I agree. They're very tough to beat. They're very versatile, I should say. We're very well-rounded. But at the end of the day, to be successful late in the season, you need to have that one guy that you can go to. You need that one true leader. I mean, times are going to get tough in the playoffs. No one really has an easy route in the playoffs.
Exactly.
I mean, right now it's kind of been smooth coasting for them. Have they really had any like big challenges? I mean, they've been blowing teams out. Playoff basketball was a whole different game. The question is, are all of them going to be ready for it? And can Donovan Mitchell step up? And that's why it's my bold prediction that he doesn't. Could he? Yes, without a doubt. But
and a huge reason for past Utah playoff success, like obviously like they haven't been like playoff success, but like they get their wins because of their home crowd. They have one of the most electric home crowds like in the entire NBA. And like obviously like this year it's not going to be like that, obviously because of COVID, but like basically every game's going to be a road game for them. And I don't I don't know how well they'll fare exactly in the playoffs with a different environment and different stakes. So yeah, I think that's a good prediction.
I like that.
It's bold. I like it.
It's very bold.
That's the point. It's got to be bold.
I like that. All right.
That's why I didn't do the Celtics trade one.
Jacob Bassett, I want to hear yours.
All right. So as stated before, the Washington Wizards have been a super underachieving team. Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook. Some people call him West Brick instead.
Well-deserved nickname.
Bertans hasn't had the best season. And there's something special about this season in the NBA. They're having this little thing called a play-in tournament where the 7 through 10 seeds, I believe.
I think it's 7 through 9, isn't it?
Or is it 9?
Nope, 10. Don't ignore me. Go on.
Four, yeah, 9, 10. So 7 through 10 are in a tournament, and teams that do the best in that tournament take the 7 and 8 seed, which I think is a little interesting. But since the Wizards have truly underperformed, my bold prediction is that they will make the play-in tournament. Now, they've looked really bad defensively, and I think they're going to be able to turn that around. Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook will figure it out. I'm saying it right here, right now. They will figure it out. They've had a really slow start, and just a little bit ago, they went on a 5-game winning streak, and that has brought them to what is now the 11th seed, even though they've just lost the game recently. And I don't see any reason Bradley Beal slows down. And I think Westbrook is the type of guy to elevate the play of his teammates. So I think both of them will figure it out, and they will make the play-in tournament.
Honestly, I think that is a rather weak, bold prediction. And that being, I think that I kind of see bold prediction as something that's kind of a stretch. I think it'd be very, very disappointing if they don't make the play-in tournament. If I'm being completely honest, they should 100% be there. I don't even think that should be considered bold. I think they should. I mean, they need to get that done. If they don't, then that's just disgusting.
It would be embarrassing.
Abysmal if they can't. That would be so embarrassing.
At the beginning of the season,
at
the beginning of the season, when the Westbrook trade happened, I would not have thought that'd be bold at all. I said they're a lot. I think they're a lock for the playoffs.
I agree with that.
Before that 5-game win streak.
But with the start,
I think a better bold prediction.
The start that they had was so
in the play-in tournament, get themselves into the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think that they were so god awful to start the season. I think it's bold to say that they will have a chance at the playoffs.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I respect that.
I think they're starting to shift it around, which is why it's kind of tough to call it bold.
I agree. Yeah. I agree, which has made it a little less bold, but.
And they're also behind on games because of COVID, so that kind of flopped.
Yeah, which doesn't help.
That too.
Yeah, well, Washington's something else, though.
Very
weird. And Westbrook's like such a hated player, but he's almost averaging a triple-double this year. Which, like...
Is he really?
Yeah, he's I think it's like 19, 8, and 7 or something like that. Which, like, obviously it's not like a vintage per year.
That is one of the most...
He already has the most in Wizards history.
That's shows Wizards history right there.
Only played 20.
Oh my God, yes. If you round up, he is averaging a triple-double. 19.7, 9.9 rebounds, and 9.8 assists.
Damn.
Oh, I lied. Yeah.
That is the quietest triple-double I've ever seen in my life.
He gets so much hate, but his playmaking ability...
All because he can't shoot.
One of the best.
Yeah.
Which hurts a lot. But yeah, I like that. Washington making the play-in tournament. I think they're going to win and get like an 8, 7, or 8 seed. That's personally me. Because I think Westbrook's going to elevate his game in the playoffs or in the past the All-Star break, whatever. But yeah. All right, Jake Koss.
All right. The Warriors will end up as a top 4 seed and make it to the Western Conference Finals. That is my bold prediction for the second half of the year.
You know what, Koss? I love it because my bold prediction was based on I believe in the Warriors still. I still think they're good. But wow.
Flight would be so happy with your prediction.
You're telling me you're going to look us right in the eyes and say that Jazz, Lakers, and Clippers I'm assuming that's who you have above them.
They got to beat one of those to get there.
Well, that would be your top three. I'm talking about seedings first before we even get into their playoff matchups. Yeah. So you're telling me that the Suns, Spurs, and Trailblazers will all plummet, while neither the Mavericks, Nuggets, or any of them flourish.
Trailblazers going up.
Warriors are going to get up there. Could that happen? A 4 seed? Yeah, I could see it. But have them taking down one of those teams.
They're
taking down the Jazz, but
3 games back of the 4 seed Suns right now.
I personally think the Jazz won't do much in the playoffs. That's
hear me out. I think I agree with that the more I say it out loud. I'm sorry for attacking you so hostilely.
Wow.
They're not that far back from a 4 seed, dude. And like I said, Jazz ain't much of a playoff threat, I don't think. That's who they would face to go to the Western Conference Finals if the Jazz even get out of the first round.
I think the big Clippers is if Steph Curry can carry a deep playoff team himself.
Yeah.
With no help,
the ability to for sure, but it's going to be seeing it live in action. I mean, this is a 2-time MVP.
That's the big what if with your prediction.
And I still don't trust the Clippers right now. They gotta prove me wrong personally. And Kelly Oubre, he started off terrible, but he's doing way better now. He started off shooting like 20% from 3, and now he's shooting like over 40%. Andrew Wiggins, to me, is having his best season of his career. The numbers aren't the highest, but his efficiency has gone up immensely. And, it's not all about the numbers. Like, he's filling his role very nicely. And, with James Wiseman, he isn't having the flashiest rookie year, but I think he could step it up after the All-Star break. Draymond, his offense, I don't like him. His offense is god-awful. He only averages like 5 points, but he averages 8 assists a game. And his defense, his leadership very impacts that team and could very well help him in the playoffs. And obviously Curry, he's averaging over 30 points a game, similar to his second MVP year.
So inspirational.
Very inspirational.
Just their only negative is their bench. They got Kent Bazemore and Kevon Looney. Their bench isn't great. I hope they make some type of trade to a guy like Eric Gordon. The Rockets aren't doing well. The Warriors could use a shooter off the bench or anything off the bench, honestly. And Warriors, they're going to make the Western Conference Finals.
Eric Gordon could actually be in the 6th Man of the Year race. I think he has a good chance to win it all. He's averaging 20 points a game right now off the bench. Insane.
He's doing very good.
It's tough with how bad the Rockets are, though.
That's the reason they're on 11 games.
Damn, are they terrible?
They're bad.
They're terrible.
It's because Christian Wood's hurt. Old Depot isn't playing.
No, I know.
It's John Wall and half of Cousins, basically.
Right.
Cousins is gone now.
Well, not Cousins, yeah. So really John Wall and Deshaun Tate. I don't even know who that is, but him.
He's starting thing.
Yeah.
I like
That's the bold prediction I've been waiting for.
Yes.
Philip Jones.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I don't think mine's too out of the ordinarily bold, but
all your statements are. Let's hear it.
I think the Denver Nuggets will go back to the Western Conference Finals.
Okay.
So hear me out before all the
talk to me,
all the stuff. So last year,
non-MVP Jokic is going to do it. I mean,
so in the bubble last year, they were a 3 seed, I think, or something like that, and they played Utah first round, and they were down 3-1, and they came back. Second round, they played Clippers, down 3-1, came back. So I think people think, oh, it's just a bubble, that's the only reason why they were successful. But I've watched a bunch of Nuggets games, and most of their losses are in the fourth quarter. They always blow, they can't finish games. I think the last game they played, they lost by 2 points to the Wizards because they didn't realize that they were down by 2 and they shot a 3 instead. They could have sent the game to overtime, do whatever.
Oh,
it's
that was so bad.
It's small flaws like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Michael Porter, what are you doing?
No one cut into the hoop.
Michael Porter, what are you doing?
It's literally small stuff like that, bro. It's that's why they have I think 16 losses right now. They're just over 500. Yeah. I think Jokic is averaging a triple-double.
Only 15.
And he's playing out of his mind right now. And I was starting to question like my statement until I saw Jamal Murray drop that 50-point game. So Jamal Murray hasn't been playing like obviously like was in the bubble because that was insane. But that 50-point game, I feel like is going to propel him. Literally, no free throws. 50-point game, almost shooting perfectly. I think that's going to propel him to continue that performance, and hopefully in the playoffs he elevates it even more to almost like maybe even just a shell of what he was in the bubble. Because if he is, I think it's going to be successful.
I hope so.
Because their offense is literally like Jokic and Jamal Murray, like pick and roll. That's literally like most of their offense. And like Porter Jr.'s in the corner, Millsap's in the corner, whatever. And the role players, like I said, like Porter Jr., Millsap, Campazzo, is that his name or something like that?
Yeah, no, he's been decent.
I think those guys are going to have to elevate their game to make this happen. But just the overall fact, like them as a team, they're so balanced with offense and defense. Because offense, obviously, they have Jokic and like Murray. Defense, like they have Millsap and like a bunch of like other like good players. And I think another key player is Will Barton. So I Will Barton my fantasy basketball team, and that means he averages 12 points a game, which like isn't amazing, but he comes off the bench. But when Murray isn't doing well, Will Barton always has the ball in his hands, and it's always him facilitating the offense. So I feel like if Will Barton can maintain or elevate his game or maintain something, I feel like the Nuggets will make a run and go to the Western Conference Finals.
And that's great. So Warriors versus Nuggets Western Conference Finals this year? I think so.
I think I don't know how high of a seed Denver will get, but yeah. I feel like in a first round matchup with like the Clippers or something like that, I feel like they could win that. The only team I can see them losing to is the Lakers.
Yeah. I'm not really trusting the Clippers. I think they still have to prove themselves. Yes, they're having great regular season, but between
playoffs.
Yeah, Mavericks took him to 6 games with second-year Luka Doncic.
And no Porzingis.
Exactly, and they blew a 3-1 lead. So I think they have a lot to prove still.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to use the restroom real bad before I say, Phil, that is terrible, man.
Wow.
Are you kidding me?
Why?
Denver going there. There's a good chance Denver doesn't even make the playoffs. And yes, I said it. Jokic is my MVP. He is balling out. He's out.
So how is an MVP not going to make the playoffs? What has that ever happened?
First half
That's true.
He's in the
no,
playoffs.
I don't think so.
I agree. I agree. That's going to hurt his MVP stock. This is who my MVP was for the first half of the season. I think his numbers are ridiculous. But I don't even know what you're saying. You're telling me that they're going to have to, if the playoffs were to stand where they are right now,
mm-hmm.
You're taking the Nuggets over the Jazz. I can see that. I agree with that. That was my bold prediction. Then you have them going to take down the Lakers in the second round.
I mean, that's if they play the Lakers.
Nah, they'd play the winner of the Suns and Spurs right now.
They wouldn't play the higher seed there?
They're the
As of right now, they're the
8 seed. Yeah.
So first round they play Utah, and then they play the Suns and Spurs.
Or 4-5, yeah.
4-5, yeah.
Very winnable.
Which isn't crazy. I mean,
so as of right now, I have them going to West Conference Finals, and I feel like at the end of the year, they will also make the West Conference Finals.
I think something we're getting down to is a common point that the teams that are going to sneak into the playoffs in the Western Conference have a really good chance of winning their first round matchup. Because that's how stacked the West is. I think that's a common theme right now.
I was going to choose Portland making the West Conference Finals. But I just don't know how CJ and Nurkic will come back after injury. Like they could either be really good or really bad.
Yeah, you never know.
I don't know. That's why I didn't trust it. But yeah, that's why I chose Denver Nuggets.
I like the Nuggets one too because in the playoffs, a big thing is limiting turnovers, and they recently just had a game where they had the least amount of turnovers in a game.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Jamal Murray had the one turnover.
I know, and he was pissed.
His reaction was so funny.
That's crazy. One turnover in an NBA game.
Like, that doesn't happen.
That could help them in the playoffs. But they got to get there first.
Which I think they'll be like a nice 6 seed. Like, not too high, not too low. I think they'll make it easily. I don't know why you don't think they'll make it. That's
bold.
I think that's a bold statement.
That's even more bold than what Phil said.
I think they'll make it, but I mean, there's a good chance they don't make it. I mean, they're battling right now for that 8th spot. Granted, it's early; they could easily jump up a little more. But
I mean, that's like saying the Celtics aren't.
They're in competition right now with the Warriors. Yeah, there's a very good chance the Celtics don't make it. I think we all agree with that one. But
I don't want to.
You wouldn't be able to tell you. I don't think you can tell me for 100% certainty that the Nuggets will get that 8 seed over a team like Dallas. You can't convince me of that. Dallas is a very good team, very sneaky team. And I think them and Denver are in a very similar situation. They're both very good rosters, both had great playoff runs last year, and they're just underperforming this year. They really
Dallas
are.
had a good playoff run.
I mean, currently they are 2.5.
Dallas was very competitive in the playoffs. That's the way to put it. They were.
I was like, what? No, yeah. And I feel like the Lakers and Nuggets series, like the fact that Anthony Davis hit that buzzer beater, I feel like Nuggets could have easily won 2 games out of the series, and they would have been like much more competitive. But it was 4-1. People they shouldn't have made it. But I think Denver is such a talented team, and that Campazzo guy is just he just brings a bunch of energy that they really didn't have last year. And I don't know how far they'll make it, but I feel like they're going to make the Western Conference Finals.
I like it, Phil. I like that bold take.
Go Nuggets, yes sir. I'm on the Nuggets train because my Pistons suck. So
the bandwagon.
Yeah.
All
right. We got any final statements, boys, regarding our bold takes or any of our choices?
I'd like to point out the fact that me and Bass had the same exact people for all of the first half awards.
For real.
We didn't tell each other.
Wait. You both.
We didn't even talk prior to this either at all.
Yeah.
Hey, that's something else, man.
That's crazy. Hey, great minds think alike, I guess.
No, I would say so. I'm like these meatheads.
I mean, hey, me and Cox chose Embiid, so that's great minds right there.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm hungry. I'm about to eat. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. Hopefully we can post more podcasts. We're aiming for once a week. We don't know if that'll work, but yeah, hopefully that'll happen. Subscribe, shout us out. We're trying to grow, trying to be, like we said, elite. So thank you so much for watching. Yeah.
And give any suggestions you want us to talk about. You have questions
as
far as
let us know.
Our opinions on whatever. Let us know.
We have a Boston Celtics episode coming up where we basically either roast them or just talk about good things.
We bash Kemba Walker.
Kemba Walker will be the prime suspect, and Danny Ainge.
Yep.
That's another one. All right. Thank you so much for watching.